Peplink is changing things up again with their new MAX BR1 Mini, new for 2022. Come along with us and we'll tell you all about it. The MAX BR1 Mini, new for 2022, is available in our full-timer VR2 bundle or available for sale just as the router itself. So you're watching this video on the listing page for both of those. You're probably watching the same video, but that's okay. Everything you're going to hear here applies. If you're going to the bundle, we're going to talk a little bit more about bundles later in the video. And if you're just looking at the router itself, well, all the features we're going to discuss on the router itself will be for you. Before we get too deep into the technical stuff on this modem, something to understand about Peplinks in general is that they all run on a time-tested and continually updated operating system. Very similar to Android phones or Apple phones, these run on an operating system across multiple devices and platforms. Right now they're on version 8.2. By the time you watch this video, they could be up in 9, 10, who knows. But devices that are 5+ years old that we've sold are running on firmware that was released just a few months ago. That means security patches, feature updates, improvements to the devices are constantly being released, and that's why they're so reliable. Now, looking at it kind of initially, and just giving you kind of the view there, it looks a lot like the previous generation Mini, but it does have a number of different changes to it. And on the inside, even more changes to it. So this is actually built on the MAX Transit Mini platform, which was a device that was initially rolled out for police and actually motorcycle use as one of the first devices that had ignition sensing technology that would work really well in motorcycle police bikes. So they took a lot of what they learned from the Transit Mini and they brought it into the BR1 Mini in this new generation chassis. So even though it does look very similar, it actually has quite a bit more going on under the hood. It has an increased processor and memory capacity that gives this a much improved throughput. The previous generation devices were looking at about 100 megabits of throughput, regardless of what modem was in them. That was kind of the max the router could handle. These devices are up to 300 megabits of throughput. Now that will come in really handy for our customers who may be thinking about potentially adding multi-WAN or potentially Starlink to this WAN port here, but we'll get into that later in the video. Let's just start with an overview. The MAX BR1 Mini is launching with a Category 6 modem capable of 300 megabits per second download and 50 megabit upload speeds. That's pretty respectable, and that's a better modem than we see in just about any device that's pre-installed on an RV. That modem's capable of operating on Verizon and AT&T and T-Mobile, but it does tend to perform best on Verizon, AT&T and T-Mobile in kind of that order based on the bands that it supports. Going into the basics, let's talk about kind of what we have here and what's in the box. We have our MAX BR1 Mini router here. We've got 2 cellular antennas. We have 2 Wi-Fi antennas. We've got a power supply here that's an AC power adapter that converts to the 4-pin Molex connector they are now using for powering devices. Optionally at mobilemusthave.com we have proprietary cables that allow you to direct DC wire with a fuse these devices directly into your mobile installation. They also have included some branded wire management and a GPS antenna with a 6-foot pigtail lead. They've also included a new quick start guide, and we kind of helped recommend that they replace the older guides that were a little bit confusing. A couple things we really like about this new guide: they've included descriptions of the different antennas and their connectors so people are not confused, as well as a more clear explanation of how to get the device online for initial configuration via the web administration portal. Of course, if you're a mobilemusthave.com customer, right when the device ships, we will send you a complete customized guide on how to get all of this working, included detailed video series and advanced setup and troubleshooting guides. So there's a lot more to how to get these devices set up than just this little card, but this is a nice touch and makes a lot more sense and is much more updated to the hardware in the newer devices. Stepping over to the router itself for a minute, we actually consider this device the replacement for the BR1 MK2. And that's a big shift for Peplink. They previously kind of had that mini series that was their kind of lower end entry level device. It had a metal case, but it just didn't have that kind of oomph and that fit and finish and that weight that you saw in the MK2. And also the performance and the specifications that you saw in the MK2. So what they're doing is they're actually kind of moving away from the MK2 in favor of the BR1 Pro series for their higher end devices. We've got a couple of those over here, but if you're interested in looking those up, look up our Speed Demon bundles, and you'll be able to kind of understand what you could do if you want to get into faster devices. These are going to be considered kind of really good entry-level, mid-level devices for what we consider just kind of basic full-timer use. You know, you're not necessarily working from the road, you're not blogging or YouTubing, but you want to stay connected and have a reliable connection where you don't have to reboot all the time. This is the device that's going to get you there in the lineup at the best possible price, in our opinion. Okay, so what makes it a lot like the MK2 and a kind of step up from the previous generation Mini? Well, like we said before, we've got that upgraded processor and that higher throughput. So we're talking about a computer inside here that's capable of moving more information faster. So that's a very good thing. In addition to that, let's just look over here and go through kind of our primary ports. We've got 2 LAN ports up from our single LAN port on the MK2, and this is for connecting local devices, computers, desktops, wireless access points, things of that nature that you want to connect via an Ethernet cable. We have a WAN port that's assignable over here that can be assigned to a third LAN port as well, and we'll talk about how this WAN port is enabled through licensing in a minute. We've got our 3 status lights, our status, which will be solid green when the device is on, or red when it is booting up, or flashing red or solid red if there's a problem. Wi-Fi, which is going to tell us that our Wi-Fi is broadcasting. That's our local network that's going to connect to our devices. And then our cellular light here. The cellular light will be solid green if you are connected to the cellular network up to a cell tower, or it will be blinking if it is trying to connect, or it will be off if the cellular modem is disabled. And then we have our 4-pin power connector over here, and that powers up the device via 12-volt power with a direct wire cable, or via the 120 volt AC adapter that comes with the device. There's also a reset button here for a paperclip if you want to factory reset the device by holding a paperclip in there, and we have reset instructions at support.mobilemusthave.com. Flipping the device around to the antenna side of things, we have 2 Wi-Fi ports here, and that is a big change from the previous generation Minis. That means that this device not only supports 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi, or longer range Wi-Fi, but it's also a little bit slower, but also 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, which is a bit faster. And by having a dual channel radio, you can support more devices, and you can put devices on the slower, longer range or faster, shorter range Wi-Fi, or let the router do it all for you, because it will by default in auto, depending on what's best for you. But having a dual channel Wi-Fi integrated into the Mini is a nice step up for 2022, and that was a big differentiator to why people moved to the MK2 in previous generations, because that added Wi-Fi was a huge benefit. We have our 2 cellular ports here, just like the other MK2 and the previous Mini. And we have a GPS antenna port here that allows you to track the location of the device or the vehicle via the secure online in-control cloud-based portal system that is hosted by Peplink. Down below that, we have our dual SIM card slots, and a reminder, folks, that this is a single modem device. It has 2 SIM card slots, but only one of them can be used at a time. You can load this up with 2 SIM cards, for instance, a Verizon and an AT&T SIM, and then through the management console, you can switch between them at a click of a button. For 2022, Peplink is moving devices to a nano SIM size. So they previously were using a large SIM. I'll show you a picture of a large SIM. and a nano SIM next to each other. And for 2022 in this device, they are moving to the nano SIM. We like that the smaller SIM slot is now the standard, especially because it prevents customers from accidentally putting small SIMs into larger slots and losing them inside of the device. So that is a nice touch to go with the nano SIM slots. A reminder to customers for these SIM card slots, just because they're confusing for folks, if you look at your SIM card, there's going to be a small little notch there, and we want to make sure that we put that notch in first and then look for the metal kind of chip part of your SIM and put that towards the other SIM card slot. So if I'm going to use SIM card slot A here, as I'm showing you really quickly, the metal is going to be pointing down and the notch is going in. Press that in, you'll hear a click, and that you can let go. That means it's seated. If you press it in again, you'll hear a click and it will pop out just like that, and then it's unseated. If you're interested in going to the SIM card slot 2, you have to pull that out, keep that notch going in forwards, and then flip that over. Flip it over so the metal is pointing up towards SIM A, and then go ahead and press it in to lock. Wait for that click, and you can press it again and you'll hear the click to unlock it. It's a little confusing though, because the SIMs have to be flipped over depending on whether or not they're in SIM slot A or B. That's just the orientation of how they got everything into such a compact case and design. Another cool feature that the BR1 Mini has up its sleeve is that this WAN port actually accepts PoE in. And this can be confusing for folks if they see that PoE sticker and they think, oh, this will power an external access point. That's not actually what this is for. But this device can be powered with a PoE switch. So what would you need that for? Well, for certain remote installations, or if you're putting this up in a ceiling or in a particular area and it's difficult to run power to this device, you can run an Ethernet cord, and that's really it, and then power the device with an external PoE injector or a PoE switch. We sell PoE injectors that will take 12 volt right off of your chassis or house batteries and convert it right up to the 48 volts needed for PoE, as well as 5 and 8 port switches that will do the same and just give you more ports. So a lot of flexibility. In certain situations, there are actually antenna manufacturers that are starting to make roof antennas or large enclosures that accept mobile routers like this inside the enclosure. So you could, in theory, run an Ethernet cable up from power inside the RV and mount this outside inside of an antenna housing up on the roof. Now just be careful with that. If you are going to be thinking about doing anything like that, you will likely void this warranty if it's out in an unimproved enclosure that's designed by another manufacturer. It's not to say you can't do it, but you got to make sure you have proper ventilation, you keep this away from water. But that is kind of a cool feature, and the real benefit of having this really close to a roof antenna would be your antenna wires to that antenna would be very short for optimal signal. Okay, so let's talk about licenses and features and some of the stuff that Peplink has changed by bringing the MAX BR1 Mini into what is called PrimeCare. For those of you who don't know, if you scroll down on a listing, there's a detailed explanation of what PrimeCare is. It's a different version or flavor of warranty by Peplink, and it also entitles you to some cloud functionality if you want to remotely administer the device. All devices come with 1 year of PrimeCare included, and if you want to know what it costs to increase or renew your PrimeCare on every listing page at mobilemusthave.com. You'll see 1 additional year, 2 additional year, etc. for adding PrimeCare licenses, which will also give you that hardware warranty in case anything ever happens to your device. There are additional features with Speed Fusion and other stuff we're not going to cover in this video, but we do have separate videos specific to those on our YouTube channel, and we can link to those in the description below as well if you're kind of interested more in stuff around what PrimeCare is. But specific to the MAX BR1 Mini, we want to talk about some licensing options that they've included in the device at time of purchase. So I don't like talking about pricing on these channels because pricing always changes, but at the time of launch, let's just say that this modem at its entry-level point is at approximately $450 from a kind of MSRP perspective. Again, check the listing, don't hold me to that. Prices change, but that's what we're looking at. So for that $449 or $450 price, what you're getting is a fully functional device that has the cellular features, the Wi-Fi features, and everything that we talked about. The only features that it does not have is this WAN port which is used to connect an external internet source, like an additional, like you could hook up an additional modem that had an Ethernet port, or additional router that had an Ethernet port in. You could hook up a cable modem for home internet to this WAN port, or you could hook up Starlink to this port. Now this port will be disabled by default at that $450 price point. Now, it will still function, it'll just work as a LAN port, which means that you can connect local devices like computers, IP cameras, stuff like that to this port. But we'll talk about what it looks like if you unlock this port with a license in a second. The second thing that comes not available at that $450 price point is the ability to connect to campground or free public Wi-Fi using something called Wi-Fi as WAN. Now, the device hardware-wise can support it, but again, to keep the price down, they have locked the Wi-Fi WAN and that WAN port function out at that initial entry-level price point. So what is the cost to unlock those features? So I'm just going to round up. For $100 extra, you can unlock the Wi-Fi WAN feature and this WAN port feature. And to be clear for everyone who's going to have this question, because it's a PrimeCare device, it is unlocked permanently. You don't have to renew PrimeCare for these features to continue to operate. You won't have a warranty without PrimeCare, but you don't, it's not like the feature's going to go away if your PrimeCare expires. They're not doing anything complicated like that, which we're very happy about. So for $550, which is $50 less than the MK2 was ever sold for, the Category 6 one, you can have a device that has all of the features of the previous generation MK2 and much faster throughput, 300 megabits up from 100 megabits for that $50 savings. So we're really happy that they have decided to do that. And it also allows folks that aren't necessarily ready to unlock that Wi-Fi WAN feature to get it at a lower price point. Peplink is stepping it up one step further, and in that $100, $98, whatever it is, you'll see it on the listing, price point, they're adding a second year of PrimeCare in with that feature pack. So you get 2 years of PrimeCare and the feature pack all added in. And they also have an option to extend that PrimeCare even further for a few bucks more. Check the listing and look for the advanced feature pack and PrimeCare options that are available there. Now, the only catch with that license upgrade with this device is that it has to be purchased at the time of purchase of the device. Don't come back to us and ask us for it later and say, can I get the $99 deal? It's not us. Peplink has made it very clear that they have to be registered at the time of sale. When we're doing our warranty registration process at the very beginning to register the device to the customer, we have to attach that license. So we highly recommend that if you're thinking of ever using Wi-Fi WAN, or you're thinking of using Starlink or this WAN port, or you're thinking of ever extending your warranty beyond the first year, get the feature pack because it's absolutely the best deal. Because the MAX BR1 Mini, we're calling it the kind of VR2 or version 2, even though that's not the official name, is such a powerhouse and has all of the features of the previous generation MK2, we are using this device in our new full-timer VR2 bundle. So this device, if you are interested in getting it with a paired roof antenna that has been tested by us for optimal performance and matching, the full-timer bundle is a great way for you to get started with kind of everything you need. For those of you who don't know, bundles come included with that DC direct wire 12-volt power cable that's matched to this device with that proprietary 4-pin Molex cable. It comes with a 5-in-1 roof antenna. The roof antenna will have 2 cellular, 2 Wi-Fi, and 1 GPS antenna, all in a nice compact housing for you up on the roof, and the modem itself, all at a discounted price. And for those customers not aware, you can also check out our memberships at memberships.mobilemustHave.com, and memberships will give you a whole host of additional benefits, including discounts on these prices, as well as discounts to data plans, access to data plans not available to the public that we have access to, and upgraded shipping, and a whole host of other benefits, so make sure you check that out. Memberships also include access to the Mobile Internet Resource Center, where they will be doing much more in-depth analysis on devices like the MAX BR1 Mini in the future, as they get their hands on them and test them and do kind of hands-on independent analysis. As we get more information about independent analysis, a bunch of that content is actually free, so check out the independent analysis tab on the listing if you're interested in seeing kind of what Mobile Internet Resource Center has to say about this device, or consider joining the membership, which will get you full access or read-only access, depending on the level of membership you choose, to go and do all of your research to get exactly what you need. MobileMustHave.com has had these devices for pre-order since pretty much they were announced. We actually kind of helped develop this with the manufacturer. So if you're interested in getting your hands on one of these and being one of the first to have access to it, hop over to MobileMustHave.com. We'll put links and you'll see pre-purchase details as well as estimated ship dates. We have been testing this device. It is a production device. It has the latest firmwares, and it has been working on all of the major carriers and has been performing very well for us. So rest assured, if you are an early adopter, we have tested the devices before you get your hands on them. Thank you so much for joining us on the overview video of the MAX BR1 Mini new for 2022. If you have any questions, hop over to mobilemusthave.com and you can click on the chat link in the bottom right-hand corner and you can speak to somebody pretty much immediately, Monday through Friday, 9 to 6 p.m. Or you can send us an email at info@mobilemusthave.com and we will get back to you right away. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the road.